Hello, I am Radagast, at your service. Tonight's topic is building an organic world. We have funding. And I want to say I am very excited. The excitement does grow with the days as the potential of what we're doing. When I say we, I mean all of us. But what we're organizing and bringing into life a true vision of peace. So I am very excited about all of this, and one of the things I want to address, because I guess it came up in one of our videos, that the title of Reverend being used with my name. That's an official title, and it's a true title. I've been an ordained minister for 23 years. I'm an interfaith minister. I might have mentioned that, and because of some of the people we'll be dealing with who use these kind of titles, and since we are interfaith, it was decided that that would be my title. That would be a title I would use officially. I don't like being addressed by it. Is something I personally do not really like. In an official setting where other people might be using that term, it's a different story. But as far as for me dealing with people on an everyday basis, I am Radagast, at your service. I would like to urge anybody who hasn't signed up for the True Vision of Peace newsletter to just drop your email in there so that we can send you letters, communications of any updates, and even just putting it in writing. Sometimes you might get an email from us before I get a chance to put it in a video. And so we are keeping it timely because we're excited, and we don't want to sit on anything. The privacy around not talking about things before they're a go, so therefore not having disappointments, is just a policy that the ambassador has used of his own since day one, and one that we feel is very good, because as soon as it doesn't need to be private, it becomes public. And again, we are working against, as the plans really develop and it's perceived that there's a movement happening, we're going to attract some attention from people who probably wouldn't want to see it do well. And so, I'm not sure where it's going, but so for signing up for the newsletter, it's a good way of staying in touch. And as far as your email going to anybody else, we've already done good stewardship of that property, and it is our way, because we have made a statement that your privacy, your email is secure with us, and that means that we have given our word, and therefore there is no way of breaking that bond. That's our integrity, and nobody could ask us to, and nobody with integrity could ever ask us to give up our integrity, and obviously we wouldn't give it up to somebody of non-integrity. So please sign it up and get into that loop. And really, what this movement, this building an organic world, is about is an organic world would be compassionate and live in symbiosis with its environment. And this is really for me, the world we're building is one of compassion and action. And compassion has different definitions for other people. For me, compassion is action. We will experience empathy and sympathy with situations, but it is through our compassion that we find the knowing and the will, and we enact to do something that our empathy and our sympathy showed us that we need to do what we can to remedy. So we means all participants in the general use of the word we. I guess every once in a while it might be as small as who's the True Vision of Peace core group and what we're doing. But in most cases, the word we I want to be applied to everybody, because this means nothing without all of us. This is for all of us, and it's for all of us to conceive of it not only in its outbuilding, but also conceive of it in how we live in that world, and how differently our responses to each other. And then as we start to feel what it's like to be organic again, we'll start to press up against the inorganic strands of the matrix, largely in the form of the legal system. And more people are gonna say, what have we allowed? And once they start realizing that, what we have allowed to be built around us, we can begin dismantling it, because you can't take apart what you don't see. And not everybody can write a business plan, even when given directions. I mean, I currently have no intentions of writing a business plan. I'm looking to help. I want to be a part of anything that's on the ground and doing something, and bringing my beta skills rather than alpha, the beta skills that work with alpha, and just is more mobile and more interactive. And so growing season is upon us. So obviously, a big focus of anything that we would want to see, like, immediately funding, is anything that involves growing, because we're now getting ready to enter winter. I mean, spring officially begins in 10 days, and so that is definitely a focus, because feeding people is a good form of liberation. And of course, any of the food projects would be pursuing would be organic. And of course, whether or not it's certified organic, that's a government thing. If it's grown organically, it's organic food, and so it may not be able to get onto the certified organic market, but it'll be organic food offered to people at almost giveaway prices. I mean, when you have CSAs, or even just places that are growing only for local consumption, and deliveries can be handled by local vans or something, if anything is leaving, but basically everybody's coming. I mean, there's so much cost that's pulled out of the production of that produce, and the cost would get passed on to you. Plus, there's no, again, anybody's ever been a part of a CSA knows that you end up with more food than your small amount of money that you know what to do with those. Because I've been a part, and it was like a giveaway program. It was like you tip them and you get all this food. And growing season upon us, and also as we build out, realizing how the artificial construct that so many of us have lived in, are now coming out of us, so some of us are still in, how this has broken society and individual psychology it's broken at the psychological level. And so we're all recovering from this at varying stages of the programming. Also, I mean, that's a big part of being broken, is where some part of a programming that you're operating from is not an organic one that you kind of built for yourself. It came wholly packaged with, you might have had some, like with any operating system, is you can have user preferences, but you're still within that operating system. So as we rebuild the world, we are rebuilding it psychologically, just conceptually, and again, how we relate to each other, and just so much more heart-based, and not survival-based, because that's how the conditioning has been around survival-based mentality, which is your root chakra. It's the most basic of things, and then to keep you occupied, they work with your second chakra. And if you're one of the more intellectual types, they give you documentaries. All right, and then the GCR, the global reset. I guess it's GRC, the global reset. And I guess, and also like the RV, which is connected to the dinar. Seems to me the global reset is coming up, and I've said that I think in other videos. But this global reset isn't the mythical New Age one. The global reset would be more about I'm pretty sure the IMF in concert with the BRICS. This has not been announced yet, but I've read it, and I see that as being the only logical thing. They will now have a unit called the standard drawing right, I believe it is, the SDR, which all money is calibrated around. And so that is a global reset of its own, okay, without any debt forgiveness to that part. Although, of course, that could be included in who knows what plans will be unfolding as the real shift starts to be obvious and even officially announced. And so one of the things that could happen, because the SDR is going to be based on a basket of world currencies, the dinar might enter that basket, in which case a dinar has a value of whatever it is against the SDR. And so those who have dinars, if they wanted to change it into some other currency, it doesn't have to just be dollars, then the dinar would have its SDR value, and then you would look at the SDR value of whatever currency you wanted, and that's what you could convert it into. So I think that's a lot of what's coming up. I mean, again, that if the dinar does not currently enter the basket of currencies, then there would be no dinar trading at that time, unless there were other dinar things that get built up outside of the general doing business within, as the world is shifting and how it does business and commerce. So this whole, what we're doing is building a new organic world through the cracks in the matrix, and just like if because the matrix is cracking by itself, and there's no upkeep to it right now. It's just scrambling. So like anything growing up through a sidewalk, some incrustation on the natural world, the first growths are just obvious. You can see it. They're green. It's life. It's organic. But that's just the beginning. And as those first shoots come up, other things start to be able to be made room for, and things just start to crumble around that. The capital matrix, and the capital matrix is largely the mindset and the programs, and that's why we don't react to it in an immune system kind of way, because we take it as part of our organic world. And once those inorganic and matrix synthetic parts are identified, we will then have an immune response. Even if it's indignation, at least there'll be a true immune response. And once the normal cells of any system start to have just a general something's wrong here, then the more specialized cells of the immune system will usually start showing up, and remedies taken. And so as a true vision of peace, with the ambassador as our absolute inspiration, but as our absolute inspiration, we are learning also. I mean, to saving the world has a basic plan, but all plans fall apart once you hit there. I should say they fall apart, but they have to be adjusted in real time. And so with our outreach, there's the good and the bad. The good people say nice short things. Some of the people who are more antagonistic have a lot more to say. And so, but it's good. It's really good. First of all, you want to know, who's not comfortable in this, and why aren't they comfortable. And of course, as you first learn about these discomforts, very often in your desire to offer some clarity, it's new for you, so you're reacting. And reaction is not always the greatest of actions, right? But from in a learning curve, you have your reactions, and then you look at your reactions because you look in the mirror, and and then you start saying, there's a commonality to what is creating confusion. And so we can now hear these voices instead of it being the first time that we're listening to this particular angle, which is going to be fairly common. Having been there, we can now have a thoughtful, proactive way of answering people and giving them what they need, to feel included, to be participatory, because this is so important. Because sometimes I think certain people, again, I don't have a plan, which means I'm not an alpha, and we have more need of betas than alphas. Every alpha needs a couple of betas, at least one, but usually a few is the the way, because the maintainers of the culture, I'll call them the yogurt. So as you have new people coming in, that knowledge and that skill and that understanding of the situation is able to be shared, and the new milk becomes yogurt. So by being proactive, it's also knowing that there are going to be people who at first might have some misunderstanding or just simply feeling left out because of the enormity of it. And I mean, this is enormous in scope. Building a new world for real all over the world. This is for real. So that's a huge scope. But there's the big picture, and there's also all the little picture and the little pictures, and then the networking. We can't get anything. That the collective we can get nothing done unless we're all in it together. It's going to take massive participation as these things start to roll out. So there's the rollout, and there's going to need to be the participation at whatever level that participation is. And as things start to happen, more and more people go, wow, this piece needs addressing. And then all of a sudden, boom, oh, I never thought of that. No, it's because you needed this piece, and now here's your piece, and now we can run with it. This is growing a body. It's this is the fetus stage, and it's growing the arms and legs and getting strong. That's what this is about. And we at this point, True Vision of Peace, is working on just knowing where confusion or lack of inclusion is being perceived, and knowing how to address it, and empowering people because a lot of the people who might not feel right with it are coming often from a place of not being included or feeling disempowered. So wherever empowerment can take place, that it is obviously our desire to make sure that happens where it can happen. Thinking big in scope, big picture, and small. What is and the other thing is, one of the things I think that help anybody is you have an idea, a plan. What is the name of it? What is the business or operational name for what you're doing? Like, help birth this by giving it an identity, and then once you have an identity, you can just start filling things in, and you might really be surprised how where you thought you had so little, you have so much. But naming your project is important. What is its name? What does it want to do? How's it going to do it? And this thing, like what, if you're starting it, what's your salary? What do you intend to pay people? And do things from an organic way, because don't forget, there's funding for this. So there is room for not ridiculousness, but certainly for generosity and the very good treatment of everybody involved in it at every level. And then also, I guess one thing that can also help is developing a regional identity. This is initially, but we of the communities paying attention to this, it would be nice to identify, who lives in the Northeast, who lives in the Southeast, who lives in the Southwest, who lives in the Northwest, and who might live in between, and starting to know who somebody with within your region is there. And then if regions get populated enough, then it could be states, or, instead of a whole Northeast, New England, and then, the New York area or whatever. I mean, that, just conceptually. But, the big thing often is when we're looking to network, often our communities and even our own families, we're not finding network partners. So it's important to use as we, or even in our comment section, it's like ask everybody, where are you from? Anybody who's like shows up, where do you live? And start identifying, knowing who this beginning community is, and developing some kind of relationship and network, so that we are all knowing each other a lot better as all of this is moving. And then the inspiration comes, we know who to reach to. I mean, because we have funding, and it's just the right ideas. The funding is going to pour in with great joy, and because the deserts will bloom. And that's the whole. This is making the deserts bloom in the concept of this poisoned world on every level, that we're in currently, and just how the health that we're going to have to grow on top of it. But as anybody knows, you could have a horrible, ugly looking yard, that a junkyard was once in. And if you let nature have their way, it just starts looking better and better all the time. So I think that's going to be my little my talk for tonight. I hope it was useful, as I always hope that I can be useful, and also just I want to get a real sense of inclusion for everybody, and that self-empowerment of like, I want to be included. How do I do it? Like I said, like how I wanted to be included in the conversation. When I started the first ModWiz video was joining the conversation, and it was about Gaia, my first video. But as I was watching Ron, I realized I had something to say, and seeing misunderstanding, I wanted to interject what my take was on the whole thing. And the Red Dragon saw it and was happy that somebody seemed to get it. And so that's how I included myself. And I knew when I was making the video, there was a chance that, not more than a chance, that it would be seen, because there's a plan coming out, and the family watches these things. And so I mean, really, just can see what are your strengths. What do you think is actually missing that you want to get in there? That's what I mean. I thought there was some coherency missing in discussions that were being had about the message of the ambassador and the Red Dragon family. And so I just jumped into the conversation, and things happened. And so that's now the conversation is becoming real. And so figure out how you get in. What is your contribution to this new organic world? What shovelful of dirt do you have? What pocketful of seeds? What pruning skills do you have? Just realize that some of this will find you. If you wait long enough, you'll be found. But for a lot of people are impatient, and part of that is look for your connections, regional, whatever. Find out what's going on where's the first thing happening. Do they need help? I mean, it's endless. Okay? So, before all else, I see the God within you. Be well. God bless.